And welcome back, guys. My name is Daniel Sanchez, CEO of DNA Brand Management. And today, this second video of part of this series, we're going to go ahead and be discussing brand guidelines. So in the previous video, we discussed business identity elements. Now, once you have all these elements set in place, the next step is to discuss brand guidelines, right? Essentially, just the way the name implies, it guides the brand on how to act, how to move, how to sound, how to be perceived. Just how you wake up every single day and you get dressed up for school, for work, for church. There's an appropriate attire that you need to wear, and there's also an appropriate conduct that you need to have, essentially, to be able to participate in these events and so on. I digress, but the point is this: the brand needs guidelines, and that's what we'll go ahead and be discussing today. Okay, and make sure you subscribe and comment below any additional content or more deep dive that you'd like me to jump into. All right, so let's go ahead and start this presentation. I'm going to go ahead and share here, and we're off. Here we go. So brand guidelines define the visual and tonal elements of your brand. So brand guidelines. When we're defining brand guidelines, you got to think about color codes, typography. You have to image style guideline, tone of voice examples, writing style rules, and I'll define these here quickly. So color codes or hex codes, right? The official color palette that represents your brand identity. When you think of McDonald's, when you think of Netflix, you think of BMW, what colors come to mind immediately when you think of those brands? And that's where your color codes are so important to remain consistent throughout the life of your particular brand. Typography. So when it comes to this, the fonts and text styles that create consistency across all materials, right? So when you're thinking about fonts, think about, what does that Netflix font look like? What does that BMW font look like? Mercedes, whatever it is. That's what immediately should come to your mind and what should come to everyone else's mind when they're thinking about your brand. Then image style guide, visual standards for photography, illustration, and graphics, right? What type of visuals are associated with your brand? And then tone of voice examples, how your brand sounds or communicates with your audience. I discussed this in the previous video. Are you going to be friendly? Are you going to be professional? Are you going to be very assertive? Again, it's very important that you selectively choose exactly how your brand is going to sound and the tone of voice it'll have. And then writing style rules, guidelines for creating consistent written content. How will it sound like? How will it read? And that's very important to remain uniform throughout the life of your brand, unless you're going to do some sort of revamp. Moving along here, color codes. I give you a quick example of what a color code palette would look like. So here you have primary blue, and with that, the hex codes to follow it and all the other individual colors as well. It's very important that you have this laid out. And I'm going to give you a quick tip here. When you're working with different companies or you're working with different designers, you're going to want to have a brand guidelines, because it makes it much easier for anyone that you hire. And yes, initially in the beginning, you're going to be doing everything, but it's much more important to have this ready and stored somewhere so that you can reference it and provide it to designers so they can remain consistent. Designers, they don't just wave a magic wand and get it right. The more information you can provide about your guide, again, and your brand, will allow them to be able to remain consistent and deliver work that you like. So this will save you a boatload of money and a boatload of time and save you a lot of frustration if you have these brand guidelines. So moving along, after that, typography, what we're going to look at is the primary font, right? So what are your headlines, titles are going to look like, or important callouts? Secondary font used for body text, descriptions, taglines, or longer content. And font hierarchy, guidelines for sizing and spacing to maintain visual hierarchy. Again, all very important elements, and it goes back to that again. Put yourself in that scenario of, hiring a freelancer, hiring a company. When you have these brand guidelines and they know how to space, how to add your titles into your social media content, whatever it is, it's extremely important. Will save you so much money and time. Okay, so moving along here. Now, image style guideline, right? So photography style, what type of style are you going to have? Lighting preferences, composition guidelines, subject matter standards. So for instance, let me give you a great example. When you're talking about Apple, right? What do we immediately picture? That smooth, stainless steel, very clean, white, glossy, glass looking type of photography, right? Now, what about when you think about cigars, right? Very famous brand Oliva. What do you get? You get that different lighting, that more golden, brown leather type of look. You see how that immediately comes to your mind? It's very important that you define this in your particular brand guidelines. Then illustration style, line weight, color application, character design. How are all the different fonts and characters going to look like, as well as any icons that you use. And again, icon system, consistency rules, size requirements, style parameters. These are all very important to ensure that it's all uniform and all looks exactly how the way you want it to look, and it reflects all together and it comes in full cycle. All right, moving along. Tone of voice examples again, and I share this in the previous video, but very important to retouch on this and reiterate again. Your brand voice is how your personality comes through in words, both written and spoken. So do say, we're excited to partner with you on this journey. Don't say, we'll take your money and do the work. Do say, here's how we can solve this challenge together. Don't say, this is your problem to figure out. Do say, thank you for your valuable feedback. Don't say, we don't care what you think. Really define that tone of voice. This is going to be extremely important for you. Yes, in business, sometimes you have to be very assertive. You have to be very direct. And, there's a lot of different scenarios and situations for this. But again, you always want to keep a professional look when it comes to your brand. Doesn't matter who you are, right? If, you come into a situation where you're interacting with a particular customer, client, whatever it may be, and you have to communicate something, it's always very important to have this in your brand guidelines, because it'll assist you to be able to seamlessly, communicate and articulate what it is that you want to do. And essentially address the situation. So it gives you that example going back to this, and this is something that you're going to get a lot. You may have clients that are going to give you some nasty feedback. And again, thank you for your valuable feedback versus we don't care what you think, right? It's important that you outline that, as simple as it may seem, or to some of you just may be, second nature here. But to other people, they truly need to have these guidelines to help them and define them. Help them define exactly what needs to get done. So again, very important that you have this documented and stored in your brand guidelines. All right, now writing style rules, grammar, punctuation, content structure, and word choice. So diving into each one, standards for consistent grammar usage across all communications. So whether it be your social media, whether it be, any written content, PDFs, documents, again, it's very important to remain uniform. Then content structure, guidelines for organizing information in a clear, scannable format. And then word choice, approved terminology and vocabulary that aligns with your brand values. And I put a note here, consistent writing style helps maintain brand integrity across all touch points and ensure your message is clearly understood by your audience. So again, as simple as it may sound, you need to define all of this information. You need to understand and picture yourself when you're interacting with clients, with customers, even with other brands, and you form strategic partnerships. It's very important that you remain consistent, that represent the values, the integrity of the brand, and that way overall, anyone that connects with you will have an overall excellent experience. And remember, it doesn't matter what type of service, and this is a side note, it doesn't matter what type of service that you have, what type of business that you have, we're all in the experience industry, believe it or not. No matter what, whether you're selling hot dogs, you're selling jewelry, you're selling cars, you're selling spaceships, it doesn't matter. Everything's about experience, and we're all in the experience industry. So meaning that all your customers and clients are going to have an experience, being human nature, right? You're going to have an experience interacting with a brand, and that's what you essentially need to put yourself into every single time when you're thinking about the overall guidelines for your brand. So very important for not only in the beginning, but as well as throughout the journey of your particular brand. And as we move forward here, I just want to thank all of you. This was just a quick video to let you know about branding guidelines. Again, I always make these videos to ensure that it empowers you, that you feel that, we can effectively help you understand and represent your brand across all your platforms. Now, again, if you ever need any assistance, branding, design, digital marketing, or just simply want to connect with me, just to ask me to deep dive into any other material, please do so. Again, you can see me on a number of different platforms that I'll add there in the description, but Hope you enjoy this. Hope you use this. As always, I'll have the PDF guideline and presentation there that you can leverage. And that way you can enjoy it and review it in your own time. And please take my content, recycle it, do as you want, add your own branding to it. I keep a more modern and futuristic look with this particular brand and this particular angle and stage in our journey, just to make it relatable across the board and a wider audience. But again, please feel free to take our content and recycle any way you want. All right. Thank you very much for joining me.